Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Emily Hiles, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Commander Kristen Russo. This evening, we warmly welcome the family of Private Frank Caine, who are watching the live stream of this ceremony from the United Kingdom. His story will be told shortly. We're also honoured to acknowledge Admiral Samuel Locklear, retired, United States Navy, Senior Fellow, United States Defence University Capstone Course, and his accompanying delegation. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is God by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved. And here, we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, flowers of the forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Frank Caine. Frank Caine was born in Nottingham, England on the 22nd of October 1904, the son of Frank and Elizabeth Caine. He grew up in Nottingham alongside his sisters Winifred, Beatrice and Sarah. Frank's mother died when he was 4 years old. His father died 6 years later. Frank emigrated to Australia in September 1924 at the age of 19. Arriving in Sydney, he was employed for a time on a farm run by the Sauls family in Kempsey on the New South Wales north coast. He returned to his hometown in England with a friend in 1929 and spent time with family before returning to Australia to continue working in Kempsey. By the time he enlisted for service in the Second World War, however, Frank Caine was living in Brisbane. Volunteering for the 2nd Australian Imperial Force on the 15th of April 1941 at Brisbane, Caine listed his sister Winifred as his next of kin. Marched into Redbank Camp, Private Caine began training. After a short period of pre-embarkation leave, in August he was admitted to Camp Hospital suffering from a carbuncle. He returned to duty soon afterwards and in October was found absent without leave. After being confined to barracks for 2 days as punishment, he travelled to Sydney and embarked for active service overseas on the 29th of October 1941. During the journey, Caine accidentally injured his left hand. He received treatment on board before arriving at Singapore in November. In Singapore, Caine served with the 2nd and 3rd Ordnance Stores Company, becoming part of the Australian Army Ordnance Corps, which supplied the Army with the materials it needed to live, move and fight. The Australian Army Service Corps supplied consumable items such as food and fuel, and the Royal Australian Engineers and Chorus Signals distributed specialist engineer stores and signals equipment. The Ordnance Corps supplied ammunition and non-consumable items, including weapons, munitions and vehicles, as well as tents, knives and forks, clothing and spare parts to maintain vehicles and equipment. Just before midnight on the 7th of December 1941, Japanese forces landed at Sinora and Patani in Thailand and at Kota Baru in northern Malaya, where they fought Allied forces. By January, the rapid advance of Japanese forces seemed unstoppable. The threat to the Pacific was insistent and pressing. The Japanese invasion of Singapore, when it came, was swift and overpowering. Spread too thinly over too wide a front, Australian forces were unable to prevent Japanese amphibious landings, which were launched on the 8th of February. Within 5 days, the battle for Singapore Island was all but over. British forces surrendered 2 days later. With that, Private Frank Caine became a prisoner of war. Initially imprisoned in the sprawling Changi prisoner of war camp, Australian prisoners were soon allocated to external work parties. The first were dispatched around Singapore and southern Malaya, but Caine became part of F Force, one of the last Labor forces to leave Changi in mid-April 1943. Many of the men of F Force were unwell even before they left Singapore. Isolated in far up country Thailand, remote from food and medical supplies, and drenched by monsoonal rains, almost a third of the Australians and 2/3 of the British prisoners would die. F Force's hardships began when they were packed into suffocating metal railway trucks with little food and water. On reaching Ban Pong in Thailand, F Force was then forced to march over 300 kilometres to camps near the border with Burma. Arriving in country in early May, F Force was spread across half a dozen camps progressing toward the Burma border. Most men were by now in a weakened state from exhaustion, hunger and disease. On the 21st of September 1943, Frank Caine died of malaria. He was 38 years old. Initially buried where he fell, his remains were later transferred to Tan Bayuzayat War Cemetery in Myanmar, where they lie today under the inscription, "His duty nobly done, loved by all, resting where no shadows fall." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Frank Caine, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.